This module will entail a few different exercises that also include 2 discussion forums. This PowerPoint recording is long, but it's split into sections that allow you to pause the presentation, do an exercise, and then resume it. The last 2 modules of this course are brief, so be sure to allow ample time to focus on this module without the concern about the last 2 taking a bunch more of your time. I hope this will help you in planning out the remainder of the course content. So let's dive in. Have you ever done a personality test? I've done a few different ones over the years, and I'm always a little amazed at how accurate they are. When I read through the results, I'm thinking, yes, that is so me. I find it reaffirming, and I've learned a lot about myself through these personality assessments. I've preached for many years now that there is great power in self-knowledge. The more you know about your true self, the more you can design your life to fit you. You can tailor your environment, your schedule, tools, and priorities to fit your natural inclination and strengths. Self-knowledge also takes you out of the comparison game. I should be more like Sam. He's really organized, or I wish I could be as freestyled as Mary. You are who you are. Attempting to be someone else only leads to frustration and stress and can be very demeaning to one's psyche. Personality typing tests tend to categorize according to things like introvert and extrovert, analytical thinking and intuition as examples. Your behavior, thoughts, and feelings that are unique to your personality type go hand in hand with your productivity style. When it comes to personal productivity, one size doesn't fit all. Your unique cognitive style can have a dramatic impact on the success or failure of time management techniques and strategies, because what works for one person doesn't mean it'll work for another. Knowing your productivity style will give you a deeper understanding of how to improve your productivity. Are you familiar with Carson Tate's productivity style assessment? She's a workplace productivity expert and the author of the book Work Simply: Embracing the Power of Your Productivity Style. She created a widely recognized work style assessment. She believes, as do I, that knowing your style will allow you to manage your work more effectively. She identified 4 productivity personalities and styles. They're identified as the prioritizer, the planner, the arranger, and the visualizer. These 4 styles aren't rigidly defined or mutually exclusive. Most people have a blend of the styles that represent each quadrant, with one quadrant tending to be the dominant one. I'll take you through a brief overview of these 4 styles, and you'll also find more information on the styles in your workbook. So we'll start with the prioritizer, who prefers logical, analytical, fact-based, critical, and realistic thinking. They tend to use time effectively and efficiently, focusing on the highest value task and on achieving project outcomes. A prioritizer is generally able to accurately complete significant amounts of work and effectively prioritize tasks. They're so focused on execution that they don't often spend much time or energy on how a task is completed. At times, they have a tendency to be controlling and rigid. They may be known in the office for their drive and competitiveness. They dislike chit-chat, missing data, or oversharing of anything personal. Their emails are often only a few sentences or even just a few words. They focus on the priority. Next is the planner. They thrive on organized, sequential, planned, and detailed thinking. They will immerse themselves in the details of a project, and they have never met a calendar or project planning tool they didn't like. They're not known for their spontaneity and may have missed opportunities because of their resistance to deviate from plans. They will write something on their task list that's already been completed just so they can cross it off. They flourish on schedules and action plans and are great at timely follow-ups. They want you to get to the point quickly. They'll read the fine print later. They hate attending a meeting without an agenda, and their emails are detailed, often including bullet points and clearly stated next action steps. They focus on the process. An arranger prefers supportive, expressive, and emotional thinking. They are the ultimate team player and excel at partnering with colleagues to get work done. They are a natural communicator and deftly facilitate project meetings. They hate when people lack that personal touch or rely too heavily on data or facts. Arrangers are talkers. They love stories, eye-to-eye contact, expressing concern for others, and asking questions about the way a project or task helps others. They've been known to need to institute a personal chat budget, only allowing a few minutes of chit-chat during work hours, and have to avoid adding one more person to the CC line on their email message. They focus on the people. A visualizer prefers holistic, intuitive, integrating, and synthesizing thinking. They thrive under pressure and are easily bored if they're not juggling multiple diverse projects. A visualizer focuses on the big picture and broad concepts, making innovative connections. They have a tendency to overlook details and tend to value the possibilities over process. Their excessive spontaneity and impulsiveness can lead to breakthrough ideas, but can also derail project plans at times. A visualizer has probably not seen the surface of their desk in years because if something is out of sight, it's out of mind. And their emails tend to be long and filled with concepts and ideas. They focus on the possibilities. So, which one do you think you are? Knowing your style isn't the magic formula for diagnosing and treating your productivity challenges, but it may unlock some mysteries for you. It can explain why some productivity strategies work and others don't. It may help you identify approaches that you may not have ever considered that could boost your productivity. This way, you're not fighting with your natural thinking, learning, and communication preferences. You're working with them instead. You first need to understand what those natural preferences are. So let's start with you doing a productivity style assessment, which is on pages 20 and 21 in your workbook. This assessment is designed to help you understand your own style, how you think, learn, and communicate best, and guide you toward productivity tips that like-minded people have found most effective. There are a few steps to completing the assessment. First of all, you want to complete each item quickly and intuitively. There are no right or wrong answers, and the more honest your response is, the more accurate the assessment will be. Read each statement, then using the scale at the top of the page, enter the number in the appropriate cell. Let me show you an example of how to fill this assessment in. If your answer for the first statement is very often, then you will put the number 4 in the very often column. Statement number 2, if your answer is rarely, then place the number 2 in the rarely column. And keep going until you've answered all 28 statements. Once you've completed those, then you will score the assessment. Using the score box on the bottom of page 21, mark the scores listed in each column and correspond them with a statement number. If you responded with the number 4 for statement number 1, then locate the number 1 line in the score box and add the number 4. I found this part a little tricky, so I checked off each item as I added them to the score box. When you've listed all of your scores, total each column, then write the totals in the appropriate quadrant in the graphic at the top of page 22. This will determine your primary productivity style. You may find you have a close or even the same score for 2 styles. All this means is that you have a combination of strong characteristics from both, and this isn't uncommon. Once you've determined your productivity style, you may want to learn more by reading the brief description of your primary style on page 19. You'll be pausing this presentation to do this exercise. Don't skip doing it, because this is the foundation for this entire module and further exercises. Follow this up with engaging in the discussion forum. Once you've completed the assessment and the discussion forum, be sure to resume this presentation. So pause the presentation now. It's one thing to know your productivity style strengths. It's another to get those strengths working for you. That's the power of personal productivity. Let's explore your productivity style strengths as they relate to managing your daily workflow, like email, time management, tasks, and project management. I've worked with many professionals, and no matter how chaotic or unorganized they think they are, one thing for certain is they all excel at some things. They've figured out some ways to do stuff that really works for them. They may have done it unconsciously, but they've done it. This next exercise on page 22 is your chance to really shine. What do you already know that works for you? For each type of work, email, time management, task execution, and project management, list or describe your own workflow-specific strengths. Here are some examples so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about. You can also refer to the examples in the chart on page 23 as a reference, but dig deep for your own first and see what you come up with. Pause this presentation to do this exercise, and once you've completed it, be sure to resume the presentation. I hope you were able to come up with at least one thing for each workflow type. You'll find some productivity best practice ideas on pages 24 and 25 that may help you out. So be sure to read those and consider how they may help you with your own personal productivity. Now we're going to move on to communication preferences for your style. Have you ever tried talking to someone at work, only to be met with a condescending response? Have you ever been assigned a project with little explanation, only to have a manager tell you to figure it out yourself? These and other off-putting behaviors can easily be attributed to differences in communication styles. Despite studies saying we spend up to 80% of our workday in meetings, on the phone, and responding to emails, communication in the workplace isn't always easy, nor is it easy to understand others. The majority of the pain of workplace encounters comes down to dealing with and decoding different communication styles. Dealing with people who speak differently than yourself is stressful. It wastes time with all the clarifying back and forths. Plus, it can leave you feeling upset, angry, and overwhelmed. Your productivity style influences how you communicate with others, and they in turn with you. I like short and to the point. That's probably my planner coming through, and I easily get impatient and overwhelmed when given too much detail. So for example, driving directions, just tell me when and where to turn. Eliminate the superfluous information like landmarks that really don't matter to the directions. They'll just confuse me. At work, if my client starts going into too much detail about something he, she, they wants me to do, because he, she, they is an arranger and loves to share information, and my brain can't keep up, what's going to happen? I'm overwhelmed and frustrated, and I've likely missed the most important aspects of that conversation because I've been busy trying to keep up with all the superfluous details. And vice versa. What if you're the type of person that does need detail, but you're communicating with someone that only gives you the need to know info? Not a very successful outcome. We can't change the way others communicate, but understanding the characteristics of other styles can help reduce the frustration you may experience when someone is communicating with you and their style is different from yours. Now that you're familiar with your productivity style and its characteristics, I want you to reflect on your communication style and how you can use this information to improve communication with others and to make sure you're being heard no matter who you're talking to. This next exercise on page 26 is a quick one, but don't skip over it. The purpose of doing this is to bring home the value of knowing your communication strengths so that you can continue to enhance them. But just as important is knowing what your communication weakness is in relation to those you work with. And with the third question on page 26, you may find it helpful to consider a particular person that you communicate with, professional or personal, your choice, but someone that you typically find challenging to do so. You'll find additional information to reference regarding communicating with other styles on pages 27 and 28. So pause the presentation now, and when you're done this exercise, resume it. Let's move on to the next topic, productivity style contributions to a team. As much as some of us would like to, we don't work in silos apart from bosses and colleagues. In one way or another, we work with people every day. We're part of teams, whether they're in person or virtual, professional or personal. At times, it can be challenging to work with others. Why is it so hard to work well with others? It's because of the clash of work styles. In order to work well with others, you need to know how your teammates think, process information, and how they prefer to work, their productivity style, not just their communication preferences. This way, you can avoid misunderstandings and conflict, especially when working on projects with others. And you'll probably get more done. You don't need to know every nuance of each style, but it is a good idea to at least know a few basics that can smooth the way to a more successful and less stressful outcome. Knowing the different communication style preferences, as well as each style's unique contributions to a team, isn't guaranteed to eliminate all clashes that might arise throughout a project, but it can help you communicate with and better understand where your colleagues are coming from. There's a table on page 29 that lays out productivity style contributions to a team. Use this as a reference to help you when working and understanding other style preferences. At the bottom of page 29, there are 2 reflective questions. Take a few minutes to answer them. Here's where you can pause the presentation, answer the questions, then resume it for the last part of this topic. Okay, one last topic and exercise before we wrap up this module. It's about coming to grips with our weaknesses in relation to our style. Within the context of this, weaknesses are referred to as blind spots because they're not really a weakness. They're just some things that maybe you're not aware of or can't really see yet. They're those niggly things that along your journey you need to be more aware of. And when you do become aware of your blind spots, then even more is possible for you. Because then you can circumvent them, stay the course, get more important stuff done, and navigate what's ahead. Now, maybe you're already aware of them. Great. But if you haven't done anything to adjust or minimize them, you need to ask yourself why you continue to tolerate them if they're having any kind of negative impact on your work or your relationships, both professional as well as personal. You're now going to examine your blind spots in an exercise. This is an opportunity for you to change things that aren't working well for you. There are 2 parts to this exercise, and you'll find them on pages 30 and 31. Read the instructions for the first part on page 30. List your blind spots and describe what's at risk for you. There's an example for each style to kickstart the thinking process, but do come up with your own. The top part of page 31 is similar to the exercise you did earlier on workflow strengths, so be sure to come up with at least one blind spot for each workflow type. Then address the 2 reflective questions that are on the bottom of page 31. Once you've completed this, be sure to post your comments in the discussion forum. This has been a somewhat thorough examination of productivity styles. I feel like I've armed you with a lot of what I hope is helpful information that you can reference moving forward. There's so much more that you can learn about this topic. I have some resources available for you on your webpage, so be sure to check them out. This concludes this module on your productivity style. Next up is habit change.